We do know the most common crafting recipe, which is of course the crafting table, yet despite that, only 48% of players have ever done that in survival. If that is true, how many players have ever unboned a bone, crafted sugar without a sugarcane, or made fences without any sticks? Also, did you know you used to be able to craft gold horse armor, saddles, as well as chain armor? Today I'll share the most niche and least used recipes of modern Minecraft, as well as the weird ones that got removed from past Minecraft, and then just to fit the Christmas Carol theme, let's go into tomorrow's Minecraft and the underused crafting items that we're definitely going to see more of. But let's start with the niche recipes for today, because we do happen to know, because of Minecraft achievements, if someone is playing on console or Windows 10 Minecraft, what percent of players have done something in legit survival. That, of course, means never entering creative mode and not turning on cheats, something which about 41% of players do every time they load up Minecraft based on this achievement. To be fair, you don't need to open your inventory to defeat the dragon, something people are probably doing all of the time, but it is still worth mentioning that the most common crafting achievement is for crafting a crafting table, and the least common are these three right here. It's a bit of an Olympics. The third, the bronze medal, is for the lie. This is for baking a cake using wheat, sugar, milk, and eggs. Only 2% of players have done this, and to be fair, it's a very niche recipe for a food that is great for filling your hunger instantly, and you can stand on it and stack with it, I guess, but otherwise it's very, very, very niche, and so I can see why most people wouldn't do it. But 5 times more people have gotten this than the silver medalist, which is fruit on the loom for making a banner using an enchanted apple stencil. This requires you to craft with an enchanted golden apple. It is a very, very, very expensive recipe for something that requires something very, very rare that most people just aren't going to bother with, apparently including myself at time of recording, something I'll have to fix, just like all of the pots that you probably break in your Minecraft world. Most people don't fix these though, because only 0.24% of people have made a decorated pot out of 4 pottery sherds. This is remarkably low. That is less than 1 in every 400 players that has made a decorated pot, which kind of shows just how unfrequently used they are. People talk about how few players go to the end or how few players go to the nether, but when it comes to the decorated pot, no one is making those, and maybe you could argue, well, it's a recent update, but look at the date that I unlocked it. It's over a year ago, 14 months now to be precise, and that means that with 14 months, only 0.24% of the Minecraft player base actually care. This is something Minecraft will have to keep in mind for future recipes, but that's going to be something fun. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's instead talk about other rare recipes that people haven't played with right now, because consider that achievement hunting is something that you might do, and so you might have made a decorated pot even if you don't care about it, just to get those 10 gamer score, but these are recipes that you might not have even known about, let alone ever gone through the effort of doing. I learned recently that you can craft a magma block, and do you know how without me revealing it? Because right here is the recipe. 4 magma cream together makes 1 magma block. I can't say I'd ever do this unless you already had a magma cream farm, but who makes a magma cream farm? Someone out there clearly, but I would just rather mine the magma block. Similarly, I feel like this next recipe is so expensive. You can craft diorite, but it's going to cost you one of the rarest and most valuable ingredients in Minecraft, nether quartz. 2 nether quartz plus 2 cobblestone doesn't even equal 4 diorite, like might be acceptable, but it equals 2 diorite, and so if you're willing to take one of the harder to get items in Minecraft and trade it in to get one of the easiest get items, you can get yourself 2 diorite for a really low price, really. The next recipe is somehow even worse, and I'm gonna make you guess it just by seeing the recipe now. So diorite and nether quartz. What do you think this makes? I mean, looking at it, it's 2 white items, and so no, it's granite. Granite is what you get as a result of this, and a part of me wants to say, well, shouldn't it be granite because it's diorite and andesite, but we'll leave aside the pronunciation and say this is the most ridiculous recipe because it's not using a common ingredient like cobblestone. It's 2 hard to get ingredients, and the only way this makes sense is if you have such a granite shortage and can't do anything else about that, which, you know, it is a hard to get block, but nowhere near hard enough to consider ever doing this, in my opinion. I think the one recipe you might actually play around with is this last one here, because to make andesite, or andesite really, you have to use diorite and cobblestone together, and that is, I guess, a little bit more reasonable. So these are obviously 3 of the least used recipes in Minecraft. They all came from the same update, which was 1.8, and the reason that they all came into being was because the underground went from being entirely stone to having lots of new blocks, and I feel like this is, you know, kind of a bit of a case of Minecraft's first time making something in the game without realizing how much people really felt that it wasn't adding as much. Also, this was the start of inventory problems in Minecraft, something which would go on for a lot longer. Speaking of something that goes on for a lot longer, have you ever made a trap chest? This is a chest plus a tripwire hook. Maybe you have, but the other thing you can do with a tripwire hook, which by the way is crafted like this, I feel like most people don't do that because it just comes up so infrequently, but you can also use these to make a crossbow if you want to. Maybe this is something you do all the time, but for me, it's been years since I got a crossbow from not killing pillagers. They drop them so ridiculously often, at least on Bedrock, that I always have too many crossbows and would never actually craft one from scratch, but maybe you've actually done this. If so, in the same category, I would say here are some other niche recipes. End rods, kind of bizarre. Daylight detectors, also a use of nether quartz. We have the activator rail, which makes me really appreciate abandoned mineshafts, and then we have all sorts of odd semi-creative recipes, such as the ability to take 4 glass bottles and a honey block and turn it into honey. We have the ability to take a slime ball and a blaze powder and make it into a magma cream. Who is doing this? This means that theoretically you can take 4 slime balls and 4 blaze powder to make a single magma block. Wow. There's also rabbit hide into leather. We have the 2 banner patterns, which use vines and bricks, very lesser known recipes for both those things, as well as flower charges and skull charges. But interestingly, I didn't know this till researching this video, written books plus book and quills will make free copies of a written book. This is fascinating that there is basically a printing press in Minecraft, but none of these recipes are the ones that I think are the ones that you'll be most surprised about, because if you've played after Village and Pillage came out, when walls have been made available to basically every type of stone, you might not know that there's a fence recipe that doesn't use sticks, because 6 nether bricks together will make the nether brick wall, but 6 nether bricks, if 2 of them are actually nether bricks instead, will make a nether brick fence, which used to be one of the only fence types in the game, so it's a little bit of a nostalgia one for anyone who's been watching for a while. We also have one of the other intriguing ones, which is the ability to take a honey bottle and turn it into sugar. I can't imagine doing this unless you have such an oversupply of bee farming in your world and no sugarcane, but it should be the opposite. You should have all sugarcane, no bee farms. It's just the objective way to do things. And finally, if I'm going to have one last recipe from modern Minecraft, I want to make sure it's one that will save your life in the nether sometime. You can take these 3 nether drops and you can combine them together to make a fire charge. If your portal ever goes out, you will need this. You don't need to die, you just need to kill a blaze, a ghast, and of course a wither skeleton, which just makes this recipe so beautifully poetic, right? Speaking of beautifully poetic, let's now go into the past of Minecraft recipes, because if you think modern Minecraft recipes are weird, consider how many strange ones used to exist. I think a fun game to play with yourself is what is the first crafting recipe added to Minecraft, because the first one that I could name is the fact that chain armor used to be craftable, not using chains as you might expect in modern Minecraft, but instead using fire, and also you used to be able to make netherite equipment without ever having to use either the netherite upgrade template, only people from more than 14 months ago will remember, or indeed you used to be able to do it right inside of the crafting table in the snapshots and previews of 1.16. We also have the enchanted golden apple, which is such an OG, but going much back before even my time was the fact that on the Java edition you used to be able to craft iron, gold, and diamond horse armor using this wool in the middle, or you used to be able to craft a horse saddle when the horse was going through its snapshot process. And the few that you might remember, if you play Pocket Edition specifically, was the fact that there was a nether reactor core. This is one of the goofiest crafting recipes, and honestly one of the goofiest features that Minecraft Bedrock had to have. But I mean, before the nether dimension was added, people wanted nether features, and that was the solution. Just like how when the crafting table had a limitation, they needed the stone cutter, which was made from 4 cobblestone in a crafting table. This is such a weird thing to see go. And fun fact, the modern day stone cutter is a repurposing of this, so if you have an old world with the old stone cutter, it will turn into the new one, which is just beautiful. I love when they repurpose old features rather than removing them. I also love the fact that you used to be able to craft black, red, and yellow together to make cocoa beans, because there were none of those in the wild. Here are some other very strange recipes you might recall if you're a Minecraft Pocket Edition OG, with some of the most recent ones being the stick and string to make a brush. I still think this is the recipe in my head sometimes because I'm ridiculous, and also the shovel being required for a boat. This was one of the most contentious Java Bedrock differences. The wool to make leather armor was strange, and so too was 6 wheat for a bread, but something that I feel a little bit of pain about is the cobweb to string recipe. Why'd it have to go? It's who was going to use this? It's got to be less used than even the recipe for the colored pot, so why would we go that deep into it? But the one which obviously most people feel sad about is this one. I went back into a previous Minecraft version just to get that footage because I thought the copper horn was a lot of fun and lots of people agree and also enjoy. Speaking of agreeing and enjoying, at this point I want to ask the question and answer it again. What do you think the first ever crafting recipe was? Because it was none of the above. It instead was this one from the Java Edition 2010, back when they were testing survival. You could take an apple and put it in the crafting table, and what would you get as a result? You were never going to guess this. It's an arrow. arrow. Why is that the case? Because apples and arrows were early items, and they just wanted to make sure that crafting worked. It's crazy to think that right now there's only one recipe involving an apple, when there used to be so many more. Speaking of so many more, there is one last thing I want to dive into today, because we've done the Ghosts of Crafting Past, the Ghost of Crafting Present. What about the Ghost of Crafting Future? I realize in A Christmas Carol they don't do it in that order, but the future of Minecraft is one that I think is incredibly interesting, because there are quite a few items that really specifically need to have a use, and which are probably going to get a use in the same way that Minecraft used to have copper be basically a niche weird item just for this weird telescope and for making the weirdest of blocks that no one really loved, and now it has a full feature set that makes perfect sense because of the trial chambers. I think something similar is going to happen with these items. I was thinking of having this section of this video be literally 5 seconds where I go, these ones right here, and then thank you for watching, goodbye, but instead let me elaborate just the tiniest bit. Right now, Echo Shards are one of the most exciting items in terms of their future possibility. The ancient cities clearly have some unfinished business in them, and even though they're great right now, I'd love to see what they could do in the future. I think it's self-explanatory to say the bell and the armadillo scutes are items that feel like they should have more applications than they do, and breeze rods are certainly the newest example of an item like that. Right now, all you can do with these is you can craft them into not breeze charges, but wind charges, which is really, really nice, or you can use them to make the mace, but it just feels as though there should be something else in there too. Similarly, I feel like amethyst is more useful than it was when it first came out, but not by a great deal, something they could certainly fix. And while we're on the category of that, isn't it really interesting that we have amethyst clusters, which you can place down? You can only get these of Silk Touch, but you can place these on the ground but can't do anything else with them. That's something I think they should fix. As far as what you could do to actually fix it, I think that ultimately this is something that will come on an update by update basis, in the same way that they had a vision for copper that they waited for the trial chamber update to go through with. I think that they have some visions for what to do with the ancient cities or with skulk feeling blocks that might benefit from this block. I think they could have a new, say, redstone component that could use a bell if it maybe has some sound design to it, or you could use the breeze rod for something fun approaching that of the current blaze rod, you might say. I feel like there are all these sorts of different possibilities, but for now, the one I want to most enjoy is, what if you crafted these 4 items together? What do you think would come out from it? That's my question for you more than anything else. But my other question for you is, have you checked out the Timeless Mashup Pack yet? The Timeless World is something that you can get by searching IDX Toy Maps on the marketplace right now. It is something I really recommend if you want these console edition sized biomes in a console edition limited world with 30 unique structures and a music disc hunt. It's one of the most fun things that you can do, and if you haven't given it a shot yet, it's a great time. And the best bit is, if you want to relive those legacy console days, then only one of you needs to download the map. The rest of you, when you join, will get all of the texture packs, all of the fun stuff for free as you are playing with the host. So grab it, get some friends in, and enjoy a classic music disc hunt, because it's 2014 in every way except my age. Oh, I'm turning 30 soon. That's depressing. Help me not turn 30 by buying the Timeless Mashup Pack. Some of the proceeds will go into reverse aging therapy. Okay, goodbye.